stopping by. My name is Shara, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read this month. So to just get into it, the first book that I read was an electronic arc given to me by NetGalley. And it was Mabel, Opal, Pear and the Rules for Spying by Amanda Hosh. This, I do believe, is the author's debut novel, and it's about a girl named Mabel whose parents are spies and they end up going missing, and adventure ensues from there. This was one that I liked. I do think that it could have been better, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. I liked the communication that was in the book. Mabel knew that her parents were spies, and they kind of talked to her a little bit about some of the things that they did. But they also had their secrets, but I liked the fact that she knew, what they did, and we didn't have to spend half of the book trying to figure that out. I also really liked that the themes of family and friendship and trust were pretty strong throughout the book, and they were written very nicely. I also really enjoyed Mabel's relationship with her best friend Stanley. I just think that he should have been in the book a little bit more. The scenes that we did get with them were really fun to read, but I just think that he should have been a bigger part of the plot. And that's just my opinion. I also didn't like the fact that I felt like, it's a spy novel. I think I expected, a little bit more gadgets and a little bit more, a little bit more action. There was some action in this book. When you think of a spy novel, I guess this one was probably a little bit tamer than I probably would have liked. But overall, it was a really good story. It was really solidly and nicely written. I just think, for my tastes, I would have liked to see a little bit more from it. So next I'm going to talk about another electronic arc that I received from NetGalley, and that was Day Black by Keith Cross. It was actually a graphic novel, and basically it's about a man who was a slave, and he was bitten by a vampire, and now in modern times he works as a tattoo artist in a city that is dark during the day. And I was interested in this because the cover and the title got my attention. The synopsis seemed interesting, so I thought I'd give it a try. I liked the illustrations. The color scheme was also really good. It was black and white with a little bit of red throughout. The storyline was interesting. It's unique. I think I've heard of one other book maybe that has this kind of a premise. For me, this was just okay. So next I want to talk about Esther, A Woman of Strength and Dignity by Charles R. Swindoll. This is about Esther from the Bible, and I love Esther. I love reading books about her life and books that tell her story. She's one of my favorite people from the Bible. So I was really excited to read this. However, it only ended up being a 2-star read from me. I thought at times it was a bit too wordy, and I would find myself kind of drifting off and being distracted, and then I'd realize what I was doing, so I'd have to go back and reread. There were a couple of really good quotes that I found, but good quotes don't make a good book. And there were some other things in here that I kind of had issue with, one of them being the way the author worded a particular sentence. It kind of seemed as if he didn't expect people of color to read this. And I have that quote in my Goodreads review, so if you want to check it out to see what I mean and kind of give me your thoughts and opinions on there, that'd be great, because I kind of want to see how other people feel about what was said. I did end up finishing it just because it was about Esther, and I really like Esther. And overall, this was just okay for me, and I don't think, even with all my little flags, that I would reread this again, and I probably would not recommend this either. Next up is Taken by D. Henderson. This one is a Christian fiction novel about a woman who was kidnapped at 16 and forced to work for the crime family that took her. And the book starts with her in her late 20s having escaped from the family. This was probably my favorite of the month. I gave it 5 stars. It was just, it was so good, and it was right on point for kind of where I've been at and kind of the things that I've been thinking about lately. And what I mean by that is, you know, here it is, Shannon has gone through this horrific event, and the people that surrounded her not only wanted to help her get justice for what she had been through, but they also wanted to make sure that she was okay, mentally okay, spiritually okay, emotionally okay. So they kind of gave of themselves to the point where they made themselves available to her whenever she needed, no questions asked, if she needed help, if she needed to talk, whatever it was. And I loved that Shannon was strong. She was strong in her faith, even after everything she had been through. Yes, she had moments where she questioned, you know, okay, God, why am I going through this? You know, etc., etc. But once it was over, she didn't really allow herself to kind of fall into that trap of the victim. You know, she chose to identify as a survivor. She chose to, you know, maintain her spirituality, even though at times it was shaken. And the way that D. Henderson wrote the book was just so realistic. The questions that were raised, the responses that were given, I really identified with that part of the book. For the things that I didn't like the lack of action. There are some Christian fiction novels out there that do pack some action, and I think that this should have been one of them, especially when she was talking about the crime family. I just feel like, as brutal as the crime family was, that it wouldn't have wrapped up as nicely as it did. And so I would have liked to have seen a little bit more action. Also, this is the 3rd book, I guess, in a companion series. You can read it as a standalone. I don't think it hurt my reading experience to read this one first, but a lot of the couples that were in this book have their own books, and so I think I would have rather have read those first, but I'm going to read them because I have all 3 of the books coming now. They're in the mail, on the way. I'm so excited because I plan on reading the other 2 first and then rereading Taken because I loved it so much. So the last one that I want to talk about is Sweetwater Gap by Denise Hunter. This is also a Christian fiction novel, and I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It's about a woman named Josie who has to go back and help her sister take care of the family orchard or family apple farm, however you want to say it. And I liked it. I think in the beginning I kind of went back and forth between, oh, this is so cute, and oh my gosh, this is frustrating. The main male character, Grady, I felt like in the beginning he was way too judgmental, and a lot of his a lot of what he felt about Josie was based off of assumptions and hearsay, and that just, that bothered me. That really irritated me. But I did like the fact that Josie, even though she kind of grew up knowing God, being raised in the church, that kind of thing, she had a very questionable relationship with God. She wasn't necessarily his biggest fan, and it took her some time to kind of come back to that relationship and really want to kind of cultivate it and build it up again. And I thought that was realistic. Overall, this was a pretty good story, and I would read more books by her. I thought the writing style was really nice, and it was something I enjoyed. So that is it for the books that I read this month. And I didn't include the ones from Tome Topple just because I did a wrap up for that separately. So I also bought 2 books this month. If you saw either of my Tome Topple videos, you've already seen Gemina, so I'm not going to talk about that one. But I also bought The Crowns of Croswald by D.E. Knight, talk about cover love, you guys. Both of the covers are beautiful. And even though these poor little fairies look like they're trapped, they're so gorgeous. This is about a 16-year-old girl named Ivy who finds out that she has magical abilities, and she ends up going to a school that will teach her how to use their magical abilities. I'm really excited for this, and I am going to probably try to read this next month. That is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, guys, thanks for watching. God bless. Bye.
Why? It's just taking so long.